It's a very different situation right now because this is my first public company role. When I was in the air, our social monitoring software went down. And the only tweet that came through to the head of social at Delta was mine. I almost got fired.
Executive thought leadership is a marketing motion. When is that a good decision for a company?
Story is the only thing that differentiates you. That's it. I view LinkedIn as like the old friend that never changed.
What are some of the things that are still true? And what are some of the things that are different compared to 2010? All right, before we dive in, you're listening to the Executive Brand Podcast with me, your host, Finn Thalmeyer. Each week, I sit down with top B2B CEOs, executive, and founders to break down their playbooks. If you've not yet, it would really help if you subscribe or follow the show because it helps us get on better guests and create better content for you guys. All right, let's dive in. Kyle is the CMO at Docebo. Docebo is a publicly traded B2B software company in the learning management space. They're the #1 enterprise learning platform with customers like Zoom, Denny, Dior, OpenTable. They're about 900 employees, about 200 million in revenue. Previously, Kyle was CMO at Jellyfish, SVP of marketing at Seismic, CMO at Lessonly, Director of Global Content Marketing at Salesforce. So over 10 years of marketing leadership experience at B2B SaaS. He's also the executive producer at Revenue Diary, which is his newsletter and podcast where he talks about surviving high growth software, parenthood, and head trash. He's an advisor at Novatic. He's a board member at Jamboree and Climb for the Future. And I did not know this until I did my research. You wrote multiple books, including Branding Yourself, which you published in December 2010 with the subtagline, Use social media to build the powerful personal brand that gets you what you want. What? 2010? I didn't even realize that personal branding was a term back then. Can you, what's going on here?
Well, we actually, it was a long time ago. And one other thing to add to that, I'm also a friend to Kevin Baines, who's on this call in Indianapolis. I think you're probably only sitting like 5 blocks from me right now, Kevin.
Yeah. I wanted to give you a friendly face, and I figured this might be easier than getting coffee.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Finn, it was pretty early on where I started an agency out of college and realized pretty quickly that the only thing I could sell in the mid 2000s as a 20 or 25-year-old was social. And so I sold training, LinkedIn training, Twitter training, Facebook training, MySpace training at the time to businesses and people. And we had the opportunity. The first book I wrote was Twitter Marketing for Dummies. And then we had the opportunity to write Branding Yourself. And the idea behind it was I wrote it with a friend of mine who was 20 years my senior. So how do you use social to invent yourself or reinvent yourself? And I'm pretty sure it's on the 4th edition. It's in 5 languages. I haven't thought about that thing in a couple of years. So I appreciate you bringing it. I don't make any money off of it.
And you were posting on Twitter back then? I mean, explain to me what were people doing to build a personal brand in 2010?
I feel old now. I mean, well, I started doing this stuff in 2003, 4, 5 when I was in college, which was more, at the time it was MySpace, Friend Feed, Facebook. Facebook had just reached our campus, but it was more around music marketing, like marketing bands, like CD Baby. Like it's a lot of indie music. And so for me, it was the perfect opportunity to differentiate myself in a market of a lot of older agencies that weren't talking about it. Totally. And so it was really easy for me to do. And so, as we talk about LinkedIn and as we talk about all this stuff, when you do it for 20 years, that's a very different thing than somebody just starting out. So I want everybody to keep that in mind. Like a lot of the consistency that I've done has to do with the fact that I've been just doing it forever.
Right. I'll have a follow-up question for that. The reason why I wanted to have you on is obviously I know a lot of people who love your LinkedIn content. You're active there. I think you're one of the best examples that I send to people for executive thought leadership. Not that it matters, but you have 60,000 followers almost. While being obviously an executive at a publicly traded company. So that's quite impressive. I'm curious, maybe you don't remember anymore from that book, but what are some of the things that are still true about personal branding, executive branding? It's all kind of the same thing. And what are some of the things that are different compared to 2010?
I can tell you the difference is the medium. Like friend feed, MySpace, Facebook, even I would lump LinkedIn is very different than TikTok,
Mm.
Instagram, video. I guess the biggest difference is between text and video. Like it's just we weren't, back then, I think we have a chapter on YouTube, but back then we weren't thinking about micro moments and content, or how do you record like this and then chop it up into
Mhm.
12 different things that you can then publish. We were talking about micro content from like, hey, if you write a blog, keep writing blogs and then spin that up into an ebook, and then that ebook can be used for social content, right? But I think that's the biggest difference right now. And for me, the most important thing that hasn't changed is the only thing that makes you unique is the story is your story. Like my story, if you take it at a very high level, where I'm a chief marketing officer at a publicly traded software company, and I talk about attribution and team health and revenue, that I sound like every other
Mm.
CMO at a publicly traded software company. But when you start getting deeper in like what I'm dealing with on my day to day, writing books, different experiences that are unique to me, the story that I tell becomes uniquely me, which is important. And I think that it's a fine balance on how personal you want to be on social, of course, but that hasn't changed. Like my co-writer Eric Deckers, who I think is probably writing a fifth edition right now. We have a chapter on how you tell your story. I don't think he's changing that at all,
Mm.
because it's I mean, for the marketers on the call, it's inherent, and even the founders on the call. Finn, you know this better than anybody else. Story is the only thing that differentiates you. That's it. And so from a personal brand standpoint, it also applies to a company. I find that a lot of the frameworks that people use for messaging and positioning at companies can also be applied to your personal life and your personal brand. But yeah, I would say those are the two main things.
And is the takeaway of that latter part just that when you publish content, incorporate your personal life, incorporate your stories from back in the day?
Yeah, and it sounds simple, and it really is. Okay, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, let me give you another example. I find in interviews, so like if I'm interviewing somebody for a director of marketing role or
Mhm.
whatever, and you can't give me specifics on the metrics of the project or what the project actually was, you just said we drove brand awareness. That's the same thing that everybody else says. You have to give particulars, you have to be tactical, you have to tell your story. My experience rebranding companies, I have a varying different experiences than somebody else. But if I just say, hey, I've had success rebranding a company, it like all y'all are gonna fall asleep. We don't want to talk about that, right? But we want to talk about the tactical aspects of it. What's the bullshit we had to deal with? Like what's the pain and the suffering and the success that the team went through? How did we deal with three designers' mental health as they were trying to rebrand a company in 6 weeks?
Right.
Right? Because that
Yeah.
type of stuff's interesting. That type of stuff is meaningful. That type of stuff has weight.
Right.
That just saying, hey, we did a rebrand and it was successful because our share of voice went up is boring as hell.
You also give people more surface area to attach to something, right? Like even your answer at the very beginning to how are you? If you just said good, there's nothing to attach to. But you
Yeah.
share multiple things about selling our house, plumber here, kid is sick. Like probably every single person on this call has one of those things to somehow attach to. And it just makes you more
Yeah.
relatable, more trustworthy, more like a real
Yeah.
person.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think one important note there, and then I'll shut up, is you've got to do it meaningfully. I have met people that try to do that try to fake it because they're trying to like connect with somebody. That does not work.
mm,
It's gotta be uniquely it's gotta be uniquely you and genuine. And you and I can probably come up with multiple names of people that fake it all day long because they want to get reach or whatever. And it probably works for them in the long run and in the short term, but it won't work out in the long term.
I know we're going off the agenda here a little bit, and
Yeah,
guys,
sorry, we can go back. We can go
no, no,
back.
no, no, no. I'm loving it. So the people on this call, if you have specific questions for Kyle, just drop them in the chat and I'll try to incorporate them. But I'm just curious on just with your background, how do you feel about the platform maturity of LinkedIn, given that you've probably seen with over the 20 years with MySpace, the up and down and all of those things. Like, where do you feel like LinkedIn sits on that trajectory right now?
I view LinkedIn as like the old friend that never changes. Honestly, like they're trying the video stuff and God bless them, but LinkedIn, like I've been hit or miss on platforms like TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram. I have always been on LinkedIn. So I can't, do I think they should improve a bunch of stuff? Of course, like any user of a piece of software or website, right? But for me, it's the steadfast, I know what I'm getting. And it is, I mean, you have issues with like throttling of audiences and reach and all that stuff that a lot of us are dealing with actually this week, it seems like, and last week. But I I've always come back to LinkedIn. I've never really left.
Yeah.
And I can't say that about the other sites.
Do you worry about that at all? I mean, it's clearly more crowded. There's clearly more content.
Sure.
There's also all kinds of AI generated content, which is not helping. Reach is down. A lot of people notice that. Like, do you worry about that? Does it affect you?
This is not going to be helpful for the people who want to create a business using LinkedIn. Honestly, what I'm about to say, so I'm prefacing it. I have never used reach or impressions as a reason for me to publish on LinkedIn ever. Like it's not something that I monitor or measure. I mean, I get a bunch of stuff. I'm in like a WhatsApp group of a bunch of LinkedIn people, and I hear about all the reach and the impression issues and audience issues and all that. Like if I'm still going to publish almost every day because it is a means for me to, I want to say regurgitate, but that is the most disgusting English word ever. It's a way for me to, what am I trying to say here? It's a way for me to publish thoughts and learn. It's the same reason I write weekly on Revenue Diaries, is that I am forcing myself to evolve as a leader, as a parent, because I'm reading, I'm publishing, I have thoughts and opinions about things that I want feedback on. It is a way for me to push myself to learn and evolve my mindset. And
Yeah.
reach and audiences is going to drop. And the reason why Revenue Diaries and having a Substack or a newsletter is important is because you own that audience. But I just love the creation of the content overall.
I have a follow-up question, but Brittany asks, would love to understand how you come up with ideas to write every day and if you leverage AI to help source ideas or edit posts.
Yes. One of my hacks recently, if you have a meeting recorder, so I use Granola.
Mm-hmm.
I will take transcripts from my one-on-ones and I don't use Granola's AI. I put it into GPT and I says, hey, review these 4 one-on-ones that I had today. Are there, based off of what you know about me and the topics we've talked, blah, 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 all the prompts that you can do, pull out any themes that you would think would be interesting for a LinkedIn post. That's one I've used the past 6 months, and it's very, very helpful because I will be talking to somebody and we'll talk about like concepts around nonviolent communication or this concept of share before ready or themes that I've evolved as a leader. And it's really easy to pull those out of meetings as you're like talking to people on your team. The second one is, this is Brittany. I will have an email that I'll send. I'll come out of a meeting or I'll be talking on the phone or an idea will hit me and I will pull my car over or I'll get on GPT and talk to it and say, hey, I had this idea. I'm not quite sure if it's a good idea or not, but I'm going to tell you. And I'll just talk to it and I have a folder of these ideas. And then I do not use it as much to write. It will give me a draft and 9 times out of 10, I'm rewriting it.
Yeah.
But it is a good thought partner to kind of come up with structure. But most of the time I rewrite it.
And then do you have like, is it just kind of spur of the moment? Like you had your four,
Yeah.
one-on-ones, you throw them into ChatGPT throws out like, hey, there was an interesting story here, and then you just post it, or do you like
Yep.
schedule them out? Do you have like I need to post 3 times a week, every week at least?
I try to post 5 to 6 times a week. And if you want to know guidelines, that's my guideline. Most of it is off the cuff. I had a post last week about the only thing that makes you relevant is your experience. I wrote that on my phone in our booth at the Unleash conference in Paris and published it. If I am traveling, I will schedule things, but a lot of it is just, again, I said I've been doing it for 20 years. Like when you do something for that long, I can sit there and bust out a post in 5 minutes if I'm like inspired. That can be good and bad. Like I've had situations where I've written something that I shouldn't have, and that has come back to bite me as I've worked for companies, which we can get into later if you want. But again, 90%, 9 times out of 10, it's fine. But I try to publish at least once a day, except for probably Sunday, and even then I try to publish something.
Can we dig into that? Can you share an example? And because I feel like a lot of executives are probably scared of exactly that happening. They post something, and
Yeah.
then
I haven't had now. I'll be honest with you. It's a very different situation right now because this is my first public company role. So, like when I was at private software companies, we could do the hey, we just had a banger quarter, right? Like emojis, sales team, you're the best, blah blah blah. We're awesome. Marketing and sales alignment. I can't do that now. That's forward-looking statements, right? So there are things that I can't publish anymore, but it's not that nerve-wracking because we have a lot of support internally on what you can and can't publish as executives, as executives of a public company, right? Shareholders of a public company, which is fine. For me, let me give you an example. I'll give you one from a long time ago and then one recently. When I worked at ExactTarget, which Kevin will remember because it was a long, long time ago, but we had a social media software, and this social media software it was basically Sprout Social, but it was in 2012. And we ran all of social for Delta. And I was the social thought leader for ExactTarget at the time. And I got on a plane to fly back from London to Indianapolis, and my TV on the plane was the only one that didn't work. And I have flown Delta for 20 years. Like Delta is my go-to. I will go to 3 different stops to fly Delta, even if there's a direct on United. So shout out to Delta. But I tweeted it, okay? And it wasn't really that bad of a tweet. It was basically like, hey, this is a bummer, blah, blah, blah. When I was in the air, our social monitoring software went down. And the only tweet that came through to the head of social at Delta was mine. And so he emailed our CEO, our CMO, my boss, our VP of Thought Leadership, like, why is your social person tweeting about something when your software is down? And I almost got fired. So customer stuff, super important. I do not like, if I'm pissed about a brand or something, where's the first place I go before I post?
CRM.
It's been since 2012. I do that today still to make sure that they're not a customer.
Wow.
So that's the first thing. Another one was my past role. I had posted something about, I'd had a conversation with a people leader about giving a team off on Fridays during the summer. And she said, hey, I like the idea, but I really want to pause and think it through before we do it. I didn't handle it appropriately. And I published a LinkedIn post about like, why summer Fridays, it's really important. My team loves it, blah, blah, blah. It went viral. CNBC picked it up and interviewed me. And she was on vacation and had it forwarded by like 5 or 6 people internally at the company. She was super pissed at me. So I think when you're thinking about content development, you need to be really careful on the internal voice. What does your content say to the employee base, like your employees, but also the external market? How are they going to view it? But it's very dependent on the company and where you're at. I think like anything, like any marketing strategy, is very dependent on the company. If you're a private company and you're a CEO, it's up to you on how intense you want to be. The CEO of Coinbase is a great example of somebody that has a value set and follows that value set, and he does not care what the market says to him.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name. If somebody can bring up the Coinbase CEO, he's a great example of I have a value
Brian
set.
Armstrong.
Brian Armstrong. I have a value set of how I want to run this company. I do not care what other people are saying. I'm going to publish what I believe, and that's not going to change. I think where it bites you is if you change that value set, right? So it's the same concept as company values or stuff like that. But I've had multiple situations where I didn't think a piece of content would go viral or have a lot of people comment or get forwarded around, and it happened. So you just got to be careful on what type of content you're writing.
Now, Kevin and Nevena, I see your guys' question. We'll get to that just because of what you just said. I'm curious if an executive is watching this and maybe they feel like they want to get into it, or they've posted a couple of posts, but they're not sure. I mean, this almost sounded like an anti-pitch, right? Because it's like, here's 2 horror stories, be very careful. What would your pitch be? Like, why are you doing it? What are the biggest benefits you're getting out of it? Why should people consider being more active?
All right. So all of us know, I don't care if you're a CEO, an executive, a marketing director, or an IC. We all know that the network that you build, the community of people around you, is what makes you successful. You can get that with, groups like Pavilion or YPO, or, I'm sure Europe has a ton of different examples. Chief is one here for women leaders. For me, LinkedIn has been a massive value add for my network. The people that I've met, the ability to send a note to somebody I'm connected to get help with something. It's not the relationship isn't as deep as like what Kevin and I would have going to have coffee in Indianapolis, or what I have with peers in my small group of Pavilion, right? But the connection is important. And so, number one, building a network is never a bad thing, I don't think. Number two, your team wants to hear from you. LinkedIn is a great way to do that. You can do an internal memo or an email or whatever, but Alessio Artufo, who's our CEO, he publishes quite a bit on LinkedIn, and it is a great view into him as a person and what he thinks about our market.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I do think that's important, that the CEO has that credibility. And so that's number two. Number three is that publishing regularly helps you hone your ideas. And more often than not, you are not going to publish something that's going to be a massive issue. I think most of the time we overthink it. The 2 examples that I gave you probably shouldn't have done. But guess what? Most people are not going to do that. But a private company, I think it all comes back to your the value, right? What are your values? How do you want to live through those? It's important in your personal life as much as it is your corporate life. And does LinkedIn kind of fit that, and the content you're producing fit that?
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to say because I've done it for so long, but our CRO, Mark Hasselglow, is another great example of somebody that uses it regularly.
Network, you said, communications, basically.
Communication,
external
to
comms
external
is internal
and
comms.
internal.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then learning and developing your own ideas. Okay, Kevin, when you get ideas from others, experiences, meetings, do you ever struggle with the thought, this is my idea, or it's not new? And if so, how do you deal with that and get the confidence or get to an authentic, confident post?
Kevin, I do not struggle with this. It could be because my ego, but it's not a thought. I don't have that thought. Most ideas are not new. Most content has been published before. If I'm passionate about it and I think it's interesting, I'll publish it.
You have talked about imposter syndrome, though. I think you call it head trash. And I think that kind of plays into this of like, what do I have to say? Who am I to like go out and like share lessons and insights? And
so I don't have an issue. My head trash doesn't have to do with like having a mic in the market, like being able to amplify ideas. I'll publish those things all day long, and half the time they're wrong. My head trash more has to do with like team development, my leaders believing in me, my CEO believing in me,
Mm.
me presenting my team appropriately to our executive team and our board. Like it's more around the team dynamics and me as a leader than it is my content. Like I'll write stuff all day long and publish it. And I don't have any issues there at all.
Yeah.
But it's more around like me individually in a company. Am I making the impact I should be making? And am I doing everything I should be doing?
Have you
If that
dealt
makes
with,
sense.
yeah, have you dealt with, I mean, the idea that maybe some of your peers, and I'm not saying this is right, I clearly disagree, but some of your peers thinking, well, if he's so active on LinkedIn and doing the podcast and doing the newsletter, like, is he even doing any actual work?
Yeah. I mean, they can believe that. You can just, if you want to know like what we're doing as a company and my team, you just look at our goals. And if my goals are slipping and I'm not doing my job and my CEO's pissed at me, maybe I shouldn't be posting so much on LinkedIn. But again, I've been doing it for so long that it is not a huge time suck for me.
Yeah.
Like it is maybe 20 minutes a day if I'm going to post. And then when I'm writing revenue diaries, it's Sunday mornings.
Mm.
So I don't care. You can think that I never work, but my team and the success of the company is going to show you whether or not I'm doing my job or not. And
Yeah.
ultimately, that's all that really matters because I'm a CMO and I'm at a public company.
Love it. Navina asks, we've all noticed the changes brought by 360 Brew. I'm not sure what that means. More specific posts live way longer now. Do you think evergreen topics are the way to go? And how should we approach more hot moment-driven topics?
That is a great question. I'm kind of confused here as well because I don't understand LinkedIn's algorithm around what they surface 3 weeks later and what they don't. So I've just ignored it. I'm just publishing things that I think are interesting. I don't do a lot of like what we would call in old school marketing news jacking, meaning like what's a hot topic, let's jack it, let's try to figure out how to I just publish stuff that I'm passionate about and what I know. Like I'm not out there doing a bunch of crap around agentic AI or AEO or any of that stuff. Now, am I publishing content from my team to show what we're doing in search and AEO and all this stuff? Yeah, for sure. But am I going and writing a huge article around, how to build an agentic strategy? No, because I'm not doing it. I
Yeah.
have a really, really talented team that does it for me. And so, that's what I try to balance. What's up, Steve Watt?
Kyle, I miss
Wow.
you, friend. Miss you, buddy. Hey, I just wanted to jump in real quick. The
Okay.
360 through. You guys are probably, since you're here, you're probably already following Richard Vanderblom. If you're not, like, fix that immediately. Like, he's such an authority on this stuff, and he's been posting a lot about the LinkedIn algorithm recently and some pretty fundamental changes that this idea of seeing these 3-week-old posts is not a bug. It's very purposeful, and it's much less about, like you said, Kyle, about jumping on some hot take, some hot topic. It's much more that apparently LinkedIn is understanding who we are based on a more holistic look at what we post. And it's sort of like, what is your fingerprint? What are the topics that
Yeah.
you are credible on? And we're going to give those posts a lot more legs. And if
Yeah.
you're way off on some weird tangent, we're probably going to nerf your reach. So
Yeah.
that's what that's all about. And I mean, that guy, I'm all totally with you, Kyle. Like, don't just like try to chase the algorithm. Do you? But understanding the algorithm can be helpful.
Sure. Sure.
There we
Absolutely.
go. There we go. Phoenix
Thanks, Steve.
said, by the way, I don't know why, but I never thought about LinkedIn as an internal communication vehicle for leaders too. So she liked that. I think it gets more consumption because your CEO
Yeah.
can only do whatever, one monthly all hands. But if your CEO is also posting twice a week on LinkedIn in bite-sized pieces, easily consumed in the way that people actually consume content nowadays, you probably get more consumption.
Yeah. So there's an example of this from Exact Target. Scott Dorsey was the CEO. He had something called a Friday note, which was every Friday he wrote an email to the company.
Mm.
And at the end of it, we were bought by Salesforce. They IPO'd, we were bought by Salesforce, blah, blah, blah. He published Friday notes as a book and gave it to all the employees to remember what we had done. that's just one, that's a micro example of using LinkedIn to really draw, like, he didn't publish it on LinkedIn. We were a public company, right? He wasn't going to publish a bunch of internal memos on LinkedIn, but you can still do the same concept. And I guarantee you that when I'm publishing stuff, my team is reading it. My team is liking it. I'm sharing it with the executive team. Our board members are reading it and liking it. Like it is a great tool to kind of get that information out.
How should companies think about their executives doing this? I mean, you mentioned network, you mentioned, communications. That's obviously helpful. You mentioned you learn and develop ideas. Those are all useful. But obviously, some companies also feel conflicted because it might give you more opportunities. You might get poached by competitors. You're obviously taking your audience with you.
So, look, that concern that people have is rooted in something very different than whether somebody should post on LinkedIn or not. If I am building a team of people that are experts in what they do and they happen to publish the stuff and they get poached to make way more money and to run a team because they're good at what they do, great. If you have fear of people leaving because they're publishing on LinkedIn, then that's a whole nother issue that you got to figure out. Now, if you have team members like executives and you're the CEO and they're publishing on LinkedIn and their team's a mess and they're not hitting goals, there's a problem there. That's kind of my framing in general. Like when I talk to my team about this stuff, it's like, I do not care what you do. You are responsible for your own career. But if you are doing all this stuff and it's hurting your job, the work that you're doing on a daily basis, then we have a problem. That's why goals are important. That's why OKRs are important, right? So I don't know if that answered your question.
For sure.
I could get on a soapbox for that because I'm something that just bothers me.
So there's the, give leeway and let employees and executives share their insights and expertise. And then there's the let's actively invest into that, right? Executive thought leadership is a marketing motion. When is that a good decision for a company to not just let them do it on their own, but actually invest into that?
And you know what? Finn and I did not talk before this. We've talked before, but I'm going to preface this by saying we did not discuss this. There is no time. You should always be thinking about doing this. Like, I don't care if you're Series A, Series A, or if you're Alessio at a publicly traded software company. It's super powerful for everything I mentioned, as well as just hiring. Like I'm very active. If I'm getting poached by a CEO, I'm going to go read LinkedIn content. I'm going to go read what they're posting online because I want to better understand where they're coming from. And the people that don't do this, fine, but it's detrimental in my opinion. And your ability to share your ideas and share stories and share what you're working on and share the people you're hiring. And I've built a huge network of people that I can use to now amplify the good work my team is doing, which is massive, which is something that a lot of leaders, like, I use it as a leverage to hire people. Like, hey, I'm really good at personal branding. I want to help you do it too. It's a part of you joining Docebo is that we talk about this stuff. Like, if I want something I've told my team since I've started running marketing is that I want you to never have to use your resume to get a job ever again. And in my mind, that's personal branding. I haven't used my resume since I was working at a venture capital firm. I think when I left Salesforce and joined OpenView, that's the last time I used a resume to get a job.
Yeah.
And anybody could, but that's not for the executive as much as it is the, more the manager.
But it flips the other way where I'm sure that if you need to hire someone on your team, you need a director of product marketing, and you put out a LinkedIn post, you massively over-index in terms of the amount and the talent that you're able to get to apply to that role, just because you have a massive audience of people who trust you, who like you, who believe in you, who share your values, and who are in your profession in marketing.
Yeah, the only downside to some of that, like I'm not going to give you all like everything that's really great about this stuff. Sometimes it does. Like if I post a job now, 80% of the people applying for it is just wasting our talent team's time. So there is a, now, do I use Sales Navigator to like build lists of people that I want the talent team to go target? And the fact that I have so many people that follow me, that's definitely a value add. But there is some downside to some of this, but it does not outweigh the positives ever.
And when you think about investing, for a company to invest into executive thought leadership, the hiring, recruiting piece applies to any executive on your team. But obviously, let's say with Docebo, I'm assuming you guys sell to L&D leaders. Your audience is mostly go-to-market and marketing leaders. So should then a company prioritize, okay, let's amplify our L&D leader and our...
So we have our chief people officer, our chief learning officer, and our CEO are ones that we are building more of an executive presence around. We're also testing some ICs that have more of a reach on investing in their thought leadership. So like helping them start a podcast, or doing more what we would do with like an executive, but apply it to an IC that has a ton of opinions about L&D as an example. I don't care what level you are, you can still influence people. And if I'm influencing a small subset of our target audience with somebody that's in their 30s that has a strong opinion about L&D, then great. That's money better spent than me spouting off ideas about L&D where a bunch of CMOs are looking at it like, what the hell is he talking about? This is not something that matters to me, right? So Mark Costleglow, who has a huge reach on LinkedIn, we've had that discussion recently. It's like our audience is, like a lot of our audience is not who Docebo targets, and that's okay. That's all right. Now, are we using it for the Docebo's benefit? Of course, but I think it's important to know for sure.
When you write posts, I mean, at this point, there must be so much just intuition around it. But how do you, if you had to decode maybe your subconscious prioritization framework, how to pick what to write about and how to write it, and what's the hook and how to structure it? Can you come up with some writing principles that you use?
So we go back to the first part of the conversation around your story's unique. And I have specific things that I'm super passionate about that help me write. And then things that I'm not passionate about, it's just much harder for me to write about. So for me, it's brand and brand experiences. If I have a great piece of direct mail, man, I can write that in 30 seconds and it's a banger post. Okay? So brand, personal stuff around being a father, that I can write out quickly. Like it's something I'm passionate about, something I think about constantly. So branded experiences in particular. So it's more, I guess, Finn, it's more theming than it is anything else for me.
So
being a father,
first
being a
requirement is you're actually passionate about the topic. That's how we prioritize.
And then you have themes. And a lot of times, I can't remember who asked. I think Brittany, you asked the question. A lot of times those themes come out in my one-on-ones anyway, right? So efficiency of production of a marketing team is something I'm passionate about. Like, how do we get more efficient in producing great creative? So that's another one, right? So in my mind, I have specific themes that usually apply to what I'm producing. And if you want to start, I would just sit down and write out 3 or 4 themes that come up regularly for you as a leader and start thinking through what are sub themes that you can write about. For me, brand and experiences are one. Let's be tactical. Direct mail, 2, right? Web UI. Like if I can't use your website and it's really hard for me to figure out where to find stuff, I get super pissed. Also, outbound, bad outbound. So it doesn't have to be all good stuff. It could also be like, hey, when you reach out to me and it's a generic post and I feel like AI write it, I'm probably going to put you on notice on LinkedIn, even though I'll hide your name.
Yes.
Right. And that's good content. People like that. I get disagreed with constantly. I'm like, fine, I'm the buyer. You can disagree with me if you want, but it's a reality.
So
theming and sub themes, I think, help.
Yeah. I mean, I like it because what I'm hearing is 80% of writing a good post is just actually be excited and passionate about about the topic,
Yeah.
right? There's no
Yes.
grand framework. But then about when I mean, people say that, the hook matters so much and how you write your first sentence and all. Do you think about that at all? Do you just kind of write and there's now some intuition and you're just kind of naturally good at it? Or do you have any things that you check for when you write? Did I do that? Did I do this?
I don't. I'm sorry. I feel like I should have came with like checks and balances for you, but I don't. I wanted to be as honest as possible. I had about a month where I was like trying to use hooks and it just didn't work for me. It was like, it didn't feel authentic. GPT was spitting out a bunch of hooks that were stupid, that didn't sound human, even though I prompted the right way. So for me, I'll do hooks, but it will be from how I would frame it anyway. And of course, you can use AI to give you ideas. I do that all the time. But more often than not, I'll either rewrite it or I'll disregard it.
Yeah.
From
I think it's
the host's
actually a great
perspective.
answer because I think it's more real. It's not, here's my 17-step process for writing a
Yeah.
LinkedIn post.
But I will say, man, I mean, some of my posts with the most reach had to do with frameworks, like had to do with what's the playbook I've used for thought leadership to generate 500 million in pipeline? Like that stuff works, of course, but I if all of you don't follow, Dave Gerhardt's probably the best example of somebody that does it extremely well. If you've had him on or ever have a chance to
Yeah,
have him on,
yeah.
he is the best example that I have of somebody that can balance both personal and professional appropriately. But he's also in a different world. He owns his own company. It's a community of marketers. Like we love that shit, right? And we'll eat it up all day long. So you got to balance with what you deal with and your focus and where you sit in a company, or if you're a leader or not, or if you're the CEO. But Dave is a great example of somebody that I look to as his content is spot on usually.
What's the 80-20, let's say, for someone who wants to start, who wants to get to the, 60,000 or fraction of the followers that you have? Besides posting about the things that they're passionate about, which we discussed, what would be some of the things, habits, principles?
Yeah, so I try as much as possible to respond to comments and at least comment on 2 or 3 posts a day if I have time. And there's no rhyme or reason to who I comment on. It's basically who's in the feed. Did I find it interesting? I'm going to comment on it. I would love to tell you that there was a reason why I do that, and it's like connected to growth and awareness and reach and all that crap. I just started doing it and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the feedback I get from people, and sometimes the hate I get from people. Like I've been on the LinkedIn, whatever the Reddit thread is, where people just rip you apart, and
LinkedIn lunatics.
LinkedIn lunatics, and there's some dude that hates CMOs that will just rip people apart on LinkedIn. And I'm not going to mention who it is because he doesn't need any more reach, but I get that too. And you just gotta, I'm fine. Great. You hate what I do. I'm fine with that. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think whether you can point to something or not, but I think it matters a ton to engage, because we've all seen the people who publish something and then they get comments and none of the comments ever get replies. And it's like, at some point people will just stop, because if I know I'll never get a reply, why should I comment on your thing?
Well, it's disingenuous too. Like it's very clear who uses it to drive reach and only reach and doesn't care about the community aspect of it. I care very deeply about the community and networking aspect of LinkedIn. And I think that's just because I grew up with it. Like Yahoo Chat and AOL Instant Messenger and all these things were ingrained in my psyche when I was in early high school, like when I was in university. Like it was something that I've been like writing away messages for Instant Messenger. I just wrote an away message for Slack. I've been doing it for 30 freaking years. Like it's just a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. So I think it's ingrained in us as humans, but when you ignore that, then people realize it and your reach is going to drop. It just happens.
Yeah. Any other lessons that come to mind that you wish you had known when you got started on this whole journey, content creation, personal branding?
I wish I would have started a newsletter sooner
Huh.
where I own the audience. Like I've been doing it a year. I've published weekly for a year now. I think a year was last week. So like 52 articles. And it has been amazing for me to just be able to sit down and write what I'm learning on a weekly basis. And I wish that I had done that sooner when I had started it, because it's pretty invaluable to go back and look at all the stuff you've been thinking about and writing about. And that's a whole different thing because it's long form. Like I'm writing 1,800 to 2,500 words every weekend, but it helps me evaluate what I'm doing in work. And it also it pushes me to read things from people that I wouldn't normally read because I'm trying to learn. And the best thing that we can do in this world of robots is to keep learning. And that is not a pitch for Docebo. It's just reality. It's like you cannot stop learning as human beings, because our creativity is what makes us great. Our ability to tell stories in a meaningful way is what makes us last. And that's super important.
Kind of tactical. Any opinion on Substack versus Beehiiv?
I'm on Beehiiv right now. I don't have an opinion. A lot of people I respect use Substack. So Adam Singer is somebody you should probably have on, Finn, if you get the chance. Adam Singer, he writes, oh my gosh, now I can't remember. Hot Takes, I think is his Substack.
I saw him on your
Yeah, he
newsletter.
is a great example of genuine thought leadership. He has a value set. He writes about his value set, and no matter what's happening in the world, it's the same value set. So he's another example of somebody that isn't as extreme as a Brian from Coinbase, but also he's been writing for years on Substack. And it just seemed, no offense to Beehiiv, it seems a little bit easier, but I haven't switched. I'm still on Beehiiv.
I don't know. Beehiiv, like I just seen some of the people from Beehiiv on LinkedIn, so naturally I gravitate towards them.
Yeah.
But definitely it seems like more people are
If
on
you
Substack.
want to make money, Beehiiv has a awesome ad network. I don't use it because that's not my reason for writing the newsletter. Substack doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So if you want, like the first couple weeks I was writing, it was delivering like, hey, if you get this amount of impressions, you can make this amount of money from this brand. Like that's super cool. It's just not my use case.
Yeah, no, makes sense. I wouldn't monetize it. Guys, we have 5 more minutes with Kyle here, so if you have any questions, drop them in now. Any favorite new recent tools that you're playing around with? Can be related to content LinkedIn or just anything fun else, AI, workflow, agentic, magic.
I'm gonna be so boring to this group. Like seriously, my tooling is Asana, GPT, and Google Drive, honestly. Like that is where the majority of my work happens. Building interactive pages and stuff, and my team's pretty deep and lovable, pretty deep in Air Ops for AEO. But for me, Asana, GPT, and Google is the best for me. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that I'm sure there's plenty of tools out there that people can use, and you'll have smarter people on than me to talk about that. But I'm just using my phone and the LinkedIn app and GPT, man.
I love it. Well, I think that there's 2 types of people. There's the kind of hackers, technical, who have the 17-step frameworks, and then there's the people I've had on who just focus on the basics and the principles, and they get it right. And you clearly fall into that bucket. Dave Gerhardt falls into that bucket. Just kind of tried and true principles, and I love that. What was the question that just escaped me? AI tools, agentic. Gosh damn it.
Air Ops?
Oh, no. I wanted to ask if there's any current company brand that is inspiring you right now at the moment, who you're thinking is doing cool stuff.
Ramp. I don't even have to hesitate. That company, outside of, Liquid Death, I love everything that they do, and that their creative director is like the most brilliant human being on the face of the planet right now. But Ramp is just, from a B2B perspective, they're owning it. Like a lot of us in B2B talk about how do we become more like B2C. And I think some of us are decent at it, but Ramp just knocks it out of the park every single time. So that's my like love. Like I've loved everything that they've done for 5, 6 years. I mean, they just know what they're doing. So Ramp is my number one. And their CEO is good on LinkedIn too.
Mm-hmm.
Eric. I think it's Eric. I think Eric's their CEO.
Sounds right. Yeah, they did this. Was it them with the office
Yeah.
thing and the glass?
I mean, that was just one of many. I think they had a billboard that was like a rock crushing a car, but the car was under the billboard and the rock was on the car. I mean, it was just experiential stuff matters. And
Right.
I just love that stuff. And that's things that will all like it's evergreen marketing. That stuff will always work. I do not care how many robots are walking around. Like that stuff just works always. So Ramp is my number one.
Yeah, I mean, that would open a whole nother conversation, but I've seen you talk about taste, and obviously
Yeah, taste.
that's
That's a whole
taste.
nother thing. Yep.
Yeah.
It's just good taste. You know it when you see it.
Would have needed to prompt ChatGPT for a long time to come up with that idea.
Or not, but still you got to do it. That's the
Right.
problem.
Right. All right, Kyle, this was awesome. I
Thank
had a
you.
ton of fun. I hope the people in the audience had fun too. All right, this podcast is brought to you by Project 33. Project 33 is the leading executive thought leadership agency for LinkedIn. If you're looking to activate your founder, your CEO, your executives, or any of your internal subject matter experts and create thought leadership content for them to build trust and credibility for your brand, reach out at project33.io.